Right, so we're going to go back to a question that we asked you in the short but sweet. Obviously, go a bit more in depth, and it's one about the favourite lake you've ever fished, which I believe was Redmire.
Yeah.
So let's go in depth with it. You know, paint the picture.
Unbelievable. It's hard to really put it into words and to explain. It's like you sort of step into sort of a portal, and then you go somewhere completely different to where you've never been before.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think mainly
so you go back in time almost, kind of thing, isn't it?
It is, and it's because I think if you sort of fished it and you'd not known the history and all the rest of it, I don't think you would feel the same, although the wildlife's a bit different to sort of what we've got locally to us. It almost seemed, it's going to sound weird, but almost like sort of not tropical, but just it just seemed like you were in sort of foreign land.
Yeah.
Just the wildlife was just next level. Just an abundance of it. You know, there was a bit of a rat problem when I fished it.
Yeah.
But it was no, you know, it's a part again of the wildlife for me. You know, I don't mind rats.
Yeah.
As long as they're not chewing on my sock or something, give me back. So yeah, really, really good. I was far too young when I fished it. I went with my cousin, and he sort of filled me in. So I think I was about 17. So I was a proper like novice, proper beginner, really.
So was this back when it was Yateley? Sorry, was it this back when it was Redmire? This is before it changed, isn't it, to the new Redmire that you know today?
This is sort of, I mean, yeah, you could argue sort of, I think people would go on to argue when it did change and all the rest of it. I mean, you know, because years and years ago when Yatesy and like, you know, Dick Walker, like before him sort of done Clarissa, and then Yatesy had obviously the Big Mirror and all the rest of it. Like that was obviously like Redmire
heyday, like.
Heyday. You know, like by far the best water in the UK. Like just stupidly by far. And for years it held records as well.
Yeah.
And it was just nothing. It was like, you know, a £30 fish was massive, obviously, back then. So then when sort of all of a sudden there was a £44 fish, and it was like, well, like what's going on? It's like now it'd be like sort of, you know, the British record's what, 66 or something, is it? At the minute, 67. You know, it'd be like now, like all of a sudden an £80 would come out. You know, that wasn't typically one of these sort of foreign.
I think it did, didn't it? But it was like flew in from his Pakistan or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, obviously back then it was totally different. But yeah, not sort of obviously going too far away from the fishing aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, it was, well, you know, like I say, it's very difficult to put it into words. But just being there, being part of it, and walking in the footsteps of people that had done it before. You know, I think most of us, when we get into carp fishing, we all want to fish for the unknown. I think there's always that aspect that, like, I mean, some people, I think we've had conversations before, some people, they like knowing that there's so many 30s and a 40 or a 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've always liked the sort of the not knowing, but typically, obviously, it contradicts what I've just said. When I did fish Redmire, I did know. Biggest fish was in there was 36, but obviously it's just a strain of fish that you're fishing for. In history, the climbing tree was still up when I fished it, so you know I'd had a chance. I'd actually climbed that several times. In the trip. I mean, the most unfortunate thing about it is I did blank. I did see a fish on the bank. My uncle managed to nick low 20, so I'd experienced that. That was nice, but I did lose a fish. Schoolboy error, yeah. So it was schoolboy error. It was the old genie clips, and I just the tubing that you put over the genie clip.
Yeah.
The genie clips typically were quite a cheap clip, really. Sometimes the
sea fishing, wasn't it? I think it was for one or something.
Yeah, and that was like sort of how we used to do our quick change rigs back then, to bang them off to lead about and then bang them back on.
So what happened? Did it snap, or did you slide off or something?
It was it came off over the eye. So when you used to put the rubber back on over the eye of the genie clip, you had to be careful if there was a little gap in that eye that you didn't slip that loop with the rig material.
Oh, where you tie the hook link to the actual
eye. Yeah, because most of them had a gap.
Yeah,
and it's not something you'd close up. You just always, I say always, 9 times out of 10, you'd make sure as you pulled, you
just pulled it tight down like.
Yeah, I started using clearer tubing after that, so I could see it as well when I would pull it up.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of the problem. You were kind of doing a lot of it on feel and tension. You had to pull it.
Yeah.
So I lost one basically, which was devastating.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not always about catching.
No.
Being there.
Not when you go somewhere like that. The history and that.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, while we're on history, I believe the next question that we've got for you is kind of a lake steeped in history too. So
certainly a venue.
Yeah. So the next question is it's a session you'll never forget, and I'll let you take it away and give us all the info.
Yeah, I mean, it's really for reasoning of it being sort of a social and everyone getting together after sort of quite a long period of time. So we're talking about pads at Yateley. It was nothing mad happened, nothing really bad happened, nothing really good happened, but it was just being again part of the history of an iconic venue, and reliving it through sort of, I say younger generation, we're all getting a bit older now, but I've managed to obviously winkle 2 out, a couple of sort of smallish ones by sort of Yateley standards. I think it was like a 17 and a 22 or something like that, and they were just about to kick off spawning. The following day they spawned and we had to leave. I didn't think they were spawning to start with, because they started spawning in front of me and I just thought they were showing over the bait that you sprayed across the whole lake. I didn't after the first fish I had, I think because of the excitement. And fishing really short. And
funny range, wasn't it, with the phones too?
Yeah, it was funny range, and I think it was just adrenaline.
Yeah.
Because it was all of about, I think it was about like 30, no more, well maybe about 40 yards.
Yeah.
But I think it's typically that sort of range where it's poult range really, but it was, and I just obviously got carried away with this throwing stick buzzing that I had, this fish, albeit, small one, but stunningly common. Yeah. But I mean, it was good times.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it? It was just a shame, like you said, on the next day that they did spawn, and we had to kind of go, didn't we? But
they were just so cagey throughout. They just spent all their time in an area where they were just about to start spawning, so it made it nigh on impossible for everybody, other than me and Rich fishing the 2 sort of going pegs where they were sat ready to go. Yeah. So we were nicking, and typically I think every fish that come out was a male fish. Yeah.
Do you reckon if someone went in end pads, that they might have had a chance? Because that was kind of a similar area.
Not the actual pad swim, the next one on.
No, sorry, not end pads, in between the pads.
In between the pads, yeah.
I reckon.
Well, they were showing there when we done the walk.
Yeah.
So when we'd done the walk, obviously I come out first in the draw.
Yeah, and then took about 10 years to choose your swim.
Took about 10 years.
The pressure, wasn't it?
It's difficult. When you come out first, it's sometimes harder. Because
the pressure's on, isn't it?
You just don't want to make the wrong decision. But after seeing 2 fish nut out, it was a no-brainer. Yeah. But you still kind of sat on your hands thinking, have I? Because, it came good in the end, as it always will do, normally. But if somebody was maybe in between pads, that might have moved them about a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it was
might have, but I think they were just holding up in that area because they were grouping up for spawning. But I thought I should have done it.
Yeah, I think if someone went in the pad swim, I think they would have done fish as well. Yeah. From the fish that I'd seen showing. Yeah. And again, it was sort of, you were hitting the back end of the big, big pads.
Because Joel lost one, didn't he? And he was in end pads. Yeah. So they were obviously coming up through the pads. I think they were just, like you said, I think they were holding up in the pads, weren't they? And holding up in them rushes. You managed to nick a couple. Rich nicked a couple.
It's shallower water typically where fish are going to spawn.
Yeah.
Pads, lily pads are shallow.
Exactly.
shallow
Yeah.
water. So.
Well, thanks, Ben.